You're listening to the Best Advice Podcast, guys. If you haven't already, give us a 5-star review and help spread the word. And if you have a question for the guys, email a voice recording to podcast@bestadvicepodcastguys.com. That's podcast@bestadvicepodcastguys.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Security Financial Management. If you're ready to level up your financial game, SFM offers a free initial consultation after each episode. Just send an email to podcast@bestadvicepodcastguys.com with the subject line complimentary consultation to book yours today.
Welcome back to Best Advice Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Rob Lavalio, here as always with Mitchell Walk, Frank Lavalio, and Dave Allen. Gentlemen, what's crack-a-lacky?
Okay, kids, you're in for a real treat today.
That's good. I like it. I'm fired up now.
The home business.
Home business. All right. Let's talk about that.
Housing's up. Let's get some positive thinking with the give me something good.
Give me something good. Give me something good then.
All right, so there was a tennis academy here in Florida, right? They did a study on the top 5 best tennis players in high school in the world versus the top 20 best players in the world in high school tennis players, right? And they did a bunch of studies, and what would you think, right? You probably think the age, like what age they started, their coaching,
yeah,
their training.
About body type. Are they long? Are they tall? Yeah.
All this kind
lanky,
of stuff,
right?
But what they realized is, or what they came to the conclusion was, it was how they thought in those 10 seconds between each point. In tennis, you have about 10, 15 seconds.
Oh, you mean the thinking pattern?
Okay. The ones that
before the next serve,
right? It was like, I got this. I'm good. I've been doing this for 20 years.
It's a head game.
I've been doing this 20 years. It lowered their heart rate. The body relaxed.
Wow.
So they were saving all
that energy.
All this energy.
Wow.
And mentally ready for when the game get to that fourth quarter, right?
You know, I got to interject because your timing is incredible.
Yeah.
And to your point, Wimbledon just played an Alcaraz. He's a beast, right? So here's the new 22-year-old kid. You know, he just dethroned Djokovic, right? Who's been 24 Masters, but they interviewed him maybe right before this match in the quarterfinal. And to your point, Rob, he said that when he was 2-2, he had a couple matches go 5, and they go, why are you so successful in the biggest moments? And to your point, he said, because I don't know why. It might be just the way I was brought up, or my parents were positive, because I believe when we go to 5 sets, I feel bad for my opponent because I'm about to win. He said, I already know I'm going to win.
And
Think about
that
mindset. He said, oh man, you're about to get waxed. And most people are like, oh no, I'm going to start playing defensive. Oh no. And he's like, oh, in 20 minutes, I'm going to be the champion. That's a great mindset, right?
I've heard,
I'm about to win.
I feel sorry for my opponent.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it's the truth though. I mean, when I tore my ACL after my All-American year, like my free throws were always my thing. When I was in high school, I shot the free throws.
Right.
College, technical foul, I'm shooting the free throws.
Right.
Second my ACL goes away, all of a sudden my free throws were like totally different.
You became Shaq.
I became Shaq.
Yeah.
I became
32%.
Or he used to shoot under. Who was the guy that shot under?
Rick Barry,
going
ABA.
We compared Rob to Shaq as well as Steph Curry.
I went from Steph Curry free throws to Shaq.
Well, let me tell you, as his dad, don't compare him to those guys, please.
He was good, but come on.
Cut it out.
Man, that's awesome.
But that is an interesting point of
Very interesting.
You know, it's so interesting.
That's cool. Positive thinking is huge,
massive.
Whatever you're in it.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy though? I mean,
so cool.
Alcaraz was like, I'm about to win.
I
know. And he said, I know I'm going to win. And he goes, I'm not trying to just say that. I know I'm about to win.
So athletic.
So cool.
You see the guy when he just runs and gets that ball. He just is like a speed demon. And then he's like a cat.
All right, let's get to the question of the day. Today's question comes from Lee from Charlotte. Lee, what you got for us?
You want to say something?
Hey guys, Lee says, I'm looking to buy my forever home with my family, and the Fed is strongly hinting of an interest rate drop. So what does that mean? Wait for rates to drop or buy now?
Thank you, Lee. Dave, take this off for me, please.
All right, Mitch and I are going to, and let's all
no, don't say Mitch and you.
No, we're going to banter on this topic a little bit, guys. Yeah, we're going to banter.
Don't cut me out.
No, okay, no, stop. we're gonna banter on this topic because there's so many variables when it comes to housing, right? Everybody thinks it's interest rates. Everybody thinks it might be where you live. It's a combo of all of them. And let's talk about Florida in general, guys. Florida is one of the hottest states that people are moving into right now. We've got great government.
We don't have a state sales tax.
Our state income tax is zero.
Right. We don't have one.
State.
Right.
Our state.
Florida does
income
not charge
tax.
an income
There's
tax.
federal income tax, but we have no
state
state income tax.
And just to interrupt, what are some of the high? Where are some of the high? Isn't New York like 8 or 10%?
New York is high.
Yeah, about 10%.
California's high.
California's high.
That's
There's
a lot.
of them.
It's a lot.
Think about that number. Think about your income. Another 8 to 10% on top of what your federal.
That'd be
And
crazy.
guess what we're getting, guys? We're getting people moving in from those states because they don't want to be there. So, I mean, remember when DeSantis says, we love you coming to our state, but don't bring your politics with you.
Yes.
Yeah, which was kind of cool. He goes, let Florida be Florida. Don't change Florida to the state you came from. So you got California moving here. You got some Northeast moving here as their main place. That's a factor in our housing. But really what we're seeing is that it is taming a little bit. But year over year, we're still up 3%. From what I've heard is that there may be another 3 to 3.4% over the next in 2024. It's not like it was. I mean, if you guys remember COVID, I mean, every day your house was rising. And then what happened? We had unrealistic expectations when that was done.
Sure.
And then you had all these people that are selling. The houses that aren't selling right now are primarily the ones that are overpriced. If they're priced well, they're going to go. But, Fed's done maybe raising rates. That might help a little bit. But yeah, I'd hate to be a young kid right now trying to get enough money for a down payment. It is a tough market out there for these young ones. Interest rates on top of that are 7% right now. So, Mitch, what's your thought?
Let's go, Mitch.
Well, the issue that we do have, to your point, with housing where it is, I used to tell people your house is where you're living. It's not an investment.
Right.
We went through when interest rates dropped to zero. You could lock in, actually 4 years ago, you could lock in a 30-year mortgage at 2.71%.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Which is just unheard of. So when you
became the norm.
It became, and that's what the expectation was,
Yeah,
because as we talked earlier,
Yeah.
interest rates used to be 6, 7, 8%.
Right.
That was the norm. But what happens when a house, you can get a 30-year mortgage locked in for 2.71%, then you can afford a much more expensive home.
Right.
And when the Fed took their 16 rate increases, the rates went up to about 7% for a 30-year fix.
Big difference.
So again, if you could afford a $300,000 house at 2.71, now you've more than doubled your monthly payment, and you can't afford that. So that's really where things have taken this hit for people on housing affordability. I think we're between 4 and 6 million homes short, or not just homes, apartments and homes short in the U.S. So we need to build that much more.
To one of your points, it's interesting too, is people think 6-7% is so high. Remember, we graduated from college. Dave and I were in the early 80s. I remember we got a loan on a condo. It was like 12 or 13%.
Frank, it was 14.
14. And interest rates, we had no money at 21 years old. We were just getting out of college,
and we didn't even know it was 14 either.
But
if we said, what's the payment?
Monthly payment.
14. But if you had money in 1983, or excuse me, it would have been 83, you could have gotten a CD for 18%.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say 18, 19%,
Right? Yeah.
but inflation was so high,
Yes.
it was almost a wash, believe it or not.
Yes.
Yeah, but inflation, we just went
Inflation
crazy
was
at
so
9.1.
Yeah.
Inflation was high double digits.
Yeah.
Just to Mitch's point, 7% is like, are you kidding me? That's because we just came out of 3% environment. If you're in a 14% environment, 7% is half of that. So it's all relative.
It's all relative.
At the time.
It's
But
all
the
relative.
housing prices went up so much.
So one of the questions that we get from young people today, or even anybody, should I be buying a house today?
Mm-hmm.
Should I wait for a correction? I'm not sure we're going to see one. We might see a slowdown.
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, we could have a pullback. I mean, we're just
Not
a
big,
couple
though.
guys that see this stuff every day, but I don't think we're big. I think what young people should do is quit having those expectations that I want to buy my final house now. I mean, me going back to having no money, and Frank and I
Sure.
started this
Right out of
business.
college.
I wanted to buy a house. So I bought my first house. It wasn't my forever home.
Creates equity, though.
Yeah, I lived in it for a while, outgrew it, and got a little equity.
Right.
And then you jump to your next house. So everybody today wants this instant gratification.
Low.
It's
It's
true.
slow.
It's like at least my age group, right? Everyone doesn't want to buy until they're like, oh, I can't see myself there in 10 years.
Right.
Like, you're going to go throw away
Yeah.
rent every month
Right.
and not get
So
the equity.
buy
And
one,
then,
live in it for a while, take that equity, go to the next one, take
Right.
that equity, go to the next one, maybe even buy a house that needs work, put some sweat equity and build some equity into it, and then move to the next one. I can't tell you. My wife's an interior designer. We moved into a few dumps that turned it out looking really nice when we were done that we
Right.
sold for
Well,
good. I'm
equity.
fortunate to have a talented wife who knows how to do that. I can't tell you I know how to do that, but that is something that people have lost thinking that they've got to buy
that
their
goes
ultimate
back
home.
to lapse.
Well,
Go
I was
ahead.
going to say they're starting to get there, because right now here in Orlando in June, the housing supply, the lowest price houses, the $160,000 house right now, the housing supply is at zero.
So there's
And
none available.
There's none
there.
available.
Yeah.
Now,
Wow.
housing
Not even
supply
a condo.
in the $240,000 range, that supply for the month of June did go up 4.5%.
But still pretty limited, isn't it?
It's very limited. Yep. And then the 375, the next level,
Right.
that was up about 1.5% for the supply, which
Yeah.
again, 1.5%
It's not
up
a
is
lot.
not a lot.
The demand's higher,
Yep.
isn't it?
And then the two more would be the 512 was only up 1.7. But the interesting part is the 787 level, which is
Yeah.
now you're starting to get up there. That supply is up to 4.4%. And one of the reasons I think that's happened, we are seeing the Californias and the people moving to Florida, that is starting to drop, because up in the Northeast and all these other areas, when you've got a mortgage at 3%, it's hard for you to sell because someone can't afford those expensive homes
Right.
up
At
in
a
these
higher
other
rate.
areas. So they can't come in and sell it to somebody because they're going to get hit with a 7% mortgage. So the sales up in these other areas have slowed down enough that they can't sell these houses for massive profits and come down here with bags of money. So that's hurt some of those 780,000. Now, some of the higher priced ones over in Sarasota and
Coastal communities.
beach coasts,
Yep.
their people have those higher priced, $1 million plus. They've got the cash and they're able to go in there.
Yeah, they're
and
not
buy
putting
it.
loans on it.
Well,
They're not
normally if
putting
you're
loans on
buying
it.
those coastal properties, you're doing it with cash.
Yeah,
You're not going
that's
to
it.
buy a vacation
They
property
weren't during
on the
COVID.
water.
There was
They
all
weren't.
kinds of loans
Yeah,
going because it
but
was
now-
cheaper to loan than to take your money out of the market.
But Orlando is expected to have some drops now over the next few months. Be slightly lower demand and slightly higher supply in the Orlando market. And really the reason is, as we know, that middle income market, they are having some tough times. We talk about it in the
About
past
last
about
show, yeah.
interest rates and actually credit cards with money.
Yeah.
So they're having those issues. So that spot is a little tough right now. But when is a real good time to buy a house? When you really need one. I mean, if you can
Yeah,
afford it,
don't wait. Just go find a lower
find your
priced one.
down payment.
Yeah.
Again,
Get in
this
the
is your
game.
home.
Get in the
This is
game.
where you're going to live. Don't look at it as it going to go up 20%. That's why we're in this problem. It's not
Mitch,
realistic.
Another factor that's kind of affecting Florida, it's not necessarily in all the different states, but especially in Florida, is our insurance. Homeowners insurance market is in
terrible.
really bad straits right now.
Mine has tripled in 3 years.
Yeah, -2. Yeah,
Tripled.
That's just not
I mean,
right.
it's not right at all.
Well, that just adds that extra cost. You think, if you have a small mortgage and then you start adding in property taxes, which are not light really in Florida.
No.
And then you got homeowners, you think you have $1,000, and they say, well, you're going to have to escrow $1,700. You're like, where's the other $700? Well, your homeowner's coverage and your taxes. So for young homeowners, make sure you really understand all the costs, not just the mortgage costs, but those ancillary costs could almost be the same
And the
as
maintenance of your
mortgage
house as
cost.
well.
That's right.
After all, someone has to pay for the lap dances for the big guy.
Yeah, so you
it's
could actually
expensive.
pay for a house with no mortgage whatsoever, and you've got your property tax, you got your homeowner's insurance. You're like, wait a minute, I thought my house was paid for it. No, it's never
You
paid
can
for
still
because
have
they've got those
$2,000 a month
ongoing
payment.
expenses. Yeah, you could be paying
And then
$2,000.
People don't realize, hey, I got all those costs, but all of a sudden my roof has an issue, or I got a plumbing
Or your
issue.
condo has an assessment.
I got a slab issue.
That's ugly. Yeah,
It seems
HOA
a little bit
fees.
like tying back to the episode of us talking about the misunderstanding of like you need a lot of money to invest, opposed to getting in the game,
Right.
dollar cost averaging for people my age, right?
Right.
It's this
In their
misconception that I have to have at least X amount to make money in the market.
Yeah.
But if you do it, put in $1,000 a month, $500 a month at 20, by the time you're 60, the compound interest is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it ties back into that, just like get the game.
No matter what, when you're young, your first home hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to hurt a little bit.
and
you gotta
affordable
get over
housing here in the Orlando market is extremely difficult. We have the fourth largest deficit of affordable housing for people in the U.S. Only 18 people out of every 100 can afford can afford it for rent, can afford the rent, because we have such a low inventory of rental homes.
Yeah,
too.
rent
So,
is brutal.
yeah, so only 18 out of 100 people can afford it here in Metro Orlando, which makes us the fourth worst deficit in the country.
That's crazy.
It's
someone gets a
difficult.
one bedroom and they're paying $2,000 a month.
It's
and
expensive.
very expensive.
And if you're making reasonable wages, that takes a big chunk of your money. So it's tough out there, but you just got to get in.
And and then back to the housing part, the inventory, it's gone up slightly. Inventory in May was recorded here in Orlando at about 10,282 houses, up 9.7% from April inventory, which was only about 9,376.
So that could drive prices down. If the demand, is
so
less
we may
than
see it. But again, shouldn't wait. But one of the best times to buy houses would be November and December. That's the slowest months.
Getting into
Summer is
holidays.
busy.
Yeah.
So you might find deals. So wait a couple of months,
Look at
get a little more of your down payment together, and you can probably find some good deals.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just a couple of months, maybe. Well, better deals than we have now.
Yeah.
Now there's not a lot of deals.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows, in September, if the rate drops a quarter, you could see a little drop in that interest rate, because again, we just went through April.
Still
the average rate was 6.9, and now it's around 6.6%.
A little
exactly.
drop.
A
Little drop. And
anyway,
if they drop
we
it a
could beat this
quarter,
up all day long, guys.
it's
Stay
okay.
within our time limit here.
All right, Lee, I hope that answers your question. Remember, folks, the secret to wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep. Happy days, everybody.
This podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only and is not intended as personal financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please do your own research and consult a financial advisor as needed. If you have a question for the guys, email podcast@bestadvicepodcastguys.com.